Welcome to Christ Church Online. We are so happy that you could join us. If you're ever in the North New Jersey area, we'd love to have you worship with us live at either of our two locations. Whether you choose to attend our beautiful cathedral in the heart of Montclair or our scenic 107-acre campus at Rockaway Township, we promise to make you feel right at home. We broadcast every Sunday, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media at Christ Church USA. You can also check out our website at christchurchusa.org for more information on our mission of connecting people to God and people to people. Now it's time for worship.
Let us just celebrate. Let's come alive today. Anybody here alive? It doesn't really sound like it. Anybody here alive? Come on. Let's worship God this morning. Here we go. Come on, put your hands together.
Deeper than fear, the tide is rising, rising.
And we know it's your desire for us to spring up with you, to have this living water just bubbling over. And so we thank you, Lord. We thank you for your desire. And if we're honest, sometimes we're empty and we are dry. But there's an assurance, there's a promise that God speaks over us. And it's that he wants to pour out his spirit over us on all flesh. And what we get by being filled with his spirit, it says in Galatians 5:22, the fruit of the spirit. We get that love, that joy, that peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. We get it all when we have the Spirit in us. And I don't know where you are this morning, if you're lacking one of those fruits. If you would just lift your arms like this, just as a sign of receiving, I believe that God wants to just pour out his Spirit on you. Whatever it is, he wants to give it to you this morning. Come, Lord. Would you satisfy our hunger, our thirst for you, our desperation for you? We want to see more of you in our lives, God. We want to be filled by your Spirit. So pour it out. Pour it out, Lord. Only you can satisfy us.
This world could never satisfy the longing in my soul. When all is lost and hope is dry, when all I feel is cold, I'm coming back to your presence. I'm coming back to your presence. 'Cause there's a hunger and a thirst. Oh Can you still be thirsty after all these years? Can you still be longing after all these years? Oh, I'm still longing after all these years. I want more. I want more. Yeah, cry out, cry out. I want
You're watching Christ Church Online, and we're excited to have you here. We'll get back to our Sunday service in just a bit, but first, we want you to know that it's your generosity that allows us to serve people in the northern New Jersey area and the world with love-fueled ministry such as this online service. With that being said, would you get a gift together that demonstrates your appreciation for this broadcast? If you're moved to leave an offering, simply text the word GIVE plus the amount to the number below, or by hitting the Give tab at the top corner of our website. Form a partnership with God today in giving through the local church to help see the hope of the world, Jesus Christ, spread throughout the globe. And now, back to our message.
My topic today is the debt monster. Rub your hands together and say out loud, I picked the right Sunday to come to church. I want you to open your Bibles to Proverbs chapter 22. And we're going to camp out there for a while. What we see as a big theme throughout the Bible is that God always wants us to learn how to manage our lives with excellence. And one of those areas that we must bring under control is the way we manage our financial life. In fact, Jesus, when he was teaching through the parables, 16 of the 38 deal with money or possessions. And when you look at big themes in the Bible, there are 500 verses on prayer, less than 500 verses on faith, but more than 2,000 verses on money and possessions. In other words, God has a lot to say about this, because if you can get money management right, oh man, there's no stopping you. About 8 years ago, we got a frightening phone call at the office. It was one of the ladies in the church, called, her voice is racing on the other end of the phone, frantic. Why? Another lady who was a member of the church attempted suicide unsuccessfully, thankfully. Why? Because she'd been so overwhelmed with debt, she didn't know what to do. And she thought ending her life was a viable option. This is no laughing matter. So debt is a monster, and you must subdue it. Proverbs 22 verse 7 says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." Financial slavery can happen to anybody that's unsuspecting. Anybody. I don't care how much money you make. In fact, if you are aware of the stats in some of the professional players about financial slavery, it's alarming. 78% of NFL players file bankruptcy or experience severe financial duress 2 years after they stop playing. NBA players, 60% of them file bankruptcy or experience financial duress 5 years after they come out of the league. So the issue is not about money. It's not about how much money you make. It's about what you do with it. And your willingness to make tough decisions. For that lady I referenced that attempted suicide, when we sat to counsel her in terms of looking at her financial life, the best thing that we were able to suggest is that you need to relocate back home to Washington, D.C. and live with your parents because you cannot afford to live on your own. You don't make enough money to support the debt that you have incurred. It was tough, but I applaud her because she was courageous and she did it. Now imagine if tomorrow you open up your mail, slice open the letter, and the letter says, "Congratulations, you've just been selected to become a slave." Fill out the enclosed card and put it in the addressed envelope that's stamped. Mail it in, and on the 15th of every month, your slavery will be in place. Do you know that's what it says in invisible ink on those credit cards? See, the Bible tells us the rich rule over the poor, and this borrower is a slave to the lender. You say, how is the borrower a slave to the lender? The borrower is a slave to the lender in that the lender dictates where you can go, when you can go, and if you go at all. If God says to you, "I'm calling you to be a missionary in China," you say, "Man, I always wanted to go. I'm called to serve those people." GMAC says, "You can't go." Visa says, "Not yet. You can only go when you pay me what you owe me." So when you're a slave, your freedom is cut off, your future may be impacted, your emotional clarity, psychological, and even physical clarity is cut off. Why? Debt is tough. It's a monster. I must be technically accurate. There are two types of debt. There's good debt and bad debt. Good debt includes things like educational loans, assuming good interest rate, and you majored in a profitable major. If you majored in basket weaving and you live, in one of the islands of the sea or in the ocean, guess what? I owe, off to work I go. That's your song. But good debt is when you're able to have a good outcome, make good decisions with the educational loan, and then your future is intact. Bad debt includes credit cards. Credit cards, they can be very consuming. Imagine, for example, you're looking at your television, you say, "Man, this picture is not, the clarity's not good." And they have pictures out there, the pixels, so many numbers, it's so bright, I feel like I'm part of the game when I'm watching it. So you step right into Best Buy, and you look, and you see this flat screen TV. It's so flat, it doesn't even look flat. And you're looking at it, and the screen's so sharp. In fact, Eli Manning, he takes the ball, he's throwing for a pass, and you start going like this in the store, because you feel like you're part of the game. And then they say $500. You say, things are tight right now. So you just whip out Visa. You said, "Charge it." $500, that's not a big thing. 19% interest rate, let's assume. First payment comes, and you say, I can't make that. And then it says minimum $10. You say, I can make that. If you paid the minimum payment of $10 per month, it would take you 100 months or 8.3 years to pay off the $500 bill, and you would have accrued $498 in interest over the course of the 8.3 years. In other words, it would cost you twice as much to buy the TV, and by the 8.3 year, when it's over, the flat screen TV is no longer vogue. You can't even see the screen. Credit card debt is bad debt. Good debt, appreciating assets. Whether physical or non-physical items that grow in value. A house, or public stocks, or a business. Bad debt includes toys and gifts. Don't go out and spend a whole lot of money on Easter hats and Easter clothing. Come on, your hat's so big it looks like a sombrero. Put it back. You can't afford the thing. You don't need to do it. Don't get in debt. We buy Christmas gifts for people we don't like, that they don't like us, and it takes 2 years to pay off a Christmas gift. No, bad debt. Good debt, medical care. You got to take care of your health so you can make money. And so that becomes a good debt. Bad debt, vacations. I'm not opposed to going on vacation, but if you got to take out a loan to go on vacation, put it on your credit card to go to Aruba, to fly to Tahiti, you'll be better off taking some stale bread and going to the park and feeding the pigeons. Pigeons will be happy. Your bank account would look good because it will no longer be bad debt. You wouldn't have any debt. Vacation, staycation, and you felt good. Good debt, business startup. You invest some money on $25,000 in your brother-in-law's business. 3 years, it doubled in value. You just made another $25,000, doubled your money in 3 years. Good debt. Bad debt, payday loans. Oh, I need the money right now. You go out and borrow $500 at 20% interest. You got to pay back in 2 weeks. You paid $100 to borrow $500. That's a lot of money. Bad debt. Let me take a little station break. I'm going to walk over here when I take a station break. If you don't understand money, you don't have to get upset. That's why we're offering this seminar called Freed Up. You can register right in the lobby. You don't need to be embarrassed. And if you got to wear a disguise to go there, wear a disguise. If you need to bring Trip and what's the other mascot? And Journey mascot, just go with them. Then everybody's looking at them. You play it off, you learn. Don't struggle. The church is coming alongside of you, so let's help you if you didn't get trained in the area of money management. Just let's learn. But I want us to understand that this debt thing, you got to subdue it because consumer spending is out of control and it requires self-control. We have too much stuff. And sometimes we're buying stuff for our kids. They're pressuring us. Or we're feeling guilty. We're buying stuff. You got to stop all that stuff. Susie Orman said, the popular financial advisor, if you have debt, I'm willing to bet that general clutter is a problem for you too. How true. You know why? We have too much stuff. Look at this. This person says, with their stuff, I have too much stuff. Jesus helps us to have a perspective because debt is not about money. Debt's about heart. Debt's about choices. Jesus says in Luke 12, verse 34, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So it starts here in the heart. It starts with us making heart choices. It starts with us recognizing that I don't want to impact negatively my future. I don't want to impact my children's future. I don't want to impact my grandchildren's future by my financial choices today. So I'm going to then subdue the debt monster. Why? So I won't be bound to debt, chasing after debt, under the cloud of debt, overwhelmed by debt, because debt is a monster. It's very, very dangerous. May God help you, help us to subdue debt. Not only you have to subdue it, you have to starve it. You can't play with the debt monster. You got to starve this thing. You may say, how do you starve debt? Proverbs 13 verse 11 gives us an answer. Wealth that comes easily disappears quickly, but money that is gathered little by little will grow. Most people, they'll never say it out loud, but most people, most Americans, they're walking around looking for a bag of gold somewhere. One day I'm going to hit it big. And sometimes they even ask me to pray for them. Pray for me, preacher. That make it big. I need a big blessing. They don't even say blessing. I want a big blessing. It's this mentality of it's magic. No, the scripture says it's about how money is accumulated. Little by little by little over time. So how do you starve the debt monster? Budgeting starves the debt monster. Budgeting is when you're able to say, I know where my money goes. I sit down, and by the way, if you don't budget, you fit within the larger percentage of Americans. 60%, or should I be accurate, 59% of Americans, according to one American bank, say 59% of Americans do not have or live by a budget. Only 41% does. So that means if I go through this audience, only 41% of us live by a budget. To establish a budget, it takes time. You sit down, you have to accumulate all the bills, gather them, figure out what's your cable bill, what's your electric bill, what's the cost of whatever it is, heating, how much do you pay for dry cleaning. And for you to amass all those numbers, it's going to take not one sitting, but maybe 3 or 4 over maybe a week or 2. But you got to do it. Once you get that down and you do it and you outline it, and you'll be surprised as to how you can accumulate wealth little by little, because budgeting starves the debt monster. Let me give you a quick example. Let's assume you're 22 years old, just finished college, you got your first check, you got your job, you never saw so many zeros before with your name attached to it. You started smiling. And then all of a sudden, you remembered the sermon I just preached, the debt monster. You said, man, why did he preach that? Why was I there? And then I give you this example. If, as a 22-year-old, you want to retire as a millionaire when you're age 65, if you just took $125 every month and socked it aside in either a Roth IRA or an investment stock, and it appreciates, and even at a conservative number, 10%, because the average interest gain on stocks over the past 50 years, our stock market, is 11.23% over a 50-year period. Now, there's some highs, some lows. 50 years, 11.23%. So my saying 10%, I'm being very conservative. At 10%, putting aside $125 per month for the next 43 years, when you retire at age 65, you would have amassed $1,008,000. That's a lot of money, a millionaire. Or $1,080,000, I'm sorry, millionaire. If you said, I don't believe Pastor David, I just want to, look, I want stuff. And you wait 10 years, so you're no longer 22, you're not 32, and you say, let me start putting aside the money. You would have amassed, when you hit age 65, $389,000. A $700,000 loss waiting 10 years. You say, why? Compounded interest. You lose out on that for 10 years. I want you to see that budgeting starves the debt monster. You may say $125. That's your McDonald's money. Put it aside. Wave at me if you're still with me. Now, this is one of those sermons that you said, did I choose the right Sunday? You did, if you make changes afterwards. then this Sunday would be one of the most valuable Sundays that you've ever established in your life. It would have transgenerational impact. Your children's children will be blessed because of your choices financially. Budgeting starves the debt monster. USA Today article said, the United States Census Bureau reported 109 million Americans used 957 million credit cards. That's 10 credit cards per person to buy $430 billion worth of goods, causing them to fall $207 billion into debt. Credit cards. Amazing, isn't it? Proverbs 21:20 gives us a perspective. Wise people live in wealth and luxury, but stupid people spend their money as fast as they get it. I'm so glad I didn't write that. I wouldn't insult you that way. I just read it. But why is Solomon calling us stupid? Here's why. Many times when we make financial decisions, they're just small decisions, small financial decisions. Let's say, for example, eating out. The average American spends $12.75 per meal that they eat out. And now the stats are alarming. The average American spends $232 per month eating out. See, we never really think of it as significant because we just say it's only $12 and 75 cents, $12. Come on, I'm tired, $12. I owe it to myself. I'm tired. Let me just take it. And so when you take that number and you say, you know something, I'm going to start cooking my meals at home. The average meal that you're cooking then, you would save you $8.75. So it's in essence costing about $4 if you make your meal at home. It is amazing what you would accrue over time. See, these habits are not big things. They're little things that you do. If we would just do little things consistently, they'll gain us big results. It is amazing how budgeting starves the debt monster. You know what starves the debt monster? Tithing. You may say, how in the world does tithing starve the debt monster? I'm glad you asked. Let me bring you back to Malachi 3, verse 8. The prophet is actually prophesying to the Israel nation. And he says, he's speaking on God's behalf, he says, I ask you, is it right for a person to cheat God? Of course not. Yet you're cheating me. How, you ask? In the matter of tithes and offerings. A curse is on all of you because the whole nation is cheating me. Bring the full amount of your tithes to the temple so that there will be plenty of food there. Put me to the test and you will see that I will open the windows of heaven and pour out on you in abundance all kinds of good things. 2 ways tithing starves the debt monster. 1, it links me in partnership with God financially. It takes me outside of the realm of cheating God, and it takes me outside of the realm of saying, God, what's my responsibility towards you? And I don't care what you think. It moves that out off the table. It moves that away from me. Second way it starves the debt monster, it controls me. When I tithe, I know that I'm giving 10% of my income to the work of the Lord through the church. You're not paying for your grandmother's cable in San Francisco. That's not tithing. That's called a gift to grandma. But, a tithe is 10% of what you earn that you give through the church for the work of ministry. And so what that does for me is that I know I can't go and then just randomly buy whatever I want to buy, because I know that I got to give 10% of my earnings to God. And the moment I include, okay, let me give 10% of what I earn to God, give it to God, then I know that, wait a second, I have a spiritual orientation now with my money. I have this spiritual anchor to my soul in regards to money. I am no longer craving things of this world as a worldly person does, because I'm linked to God in regards to financial responsibility to God and to His house, and so it works in my soul. Now, you'll find worldly people are trying to fill up the void in their lives with stuff. Why do you need 10 pairs of brown shoes? You say, you don't understand the color brown. They're different shades of brown. Look at that shade. And I got to look at it with like 1 foot standing up to see the difference. I see a slight difference. She said, that's what I mean. See, that color brown, that shade fits this outfit. Now, if I want to wear that color brown, these 5 outfits are what I use. I want you to see that you got to fill up your life with some stuff that's more substantive than stuff. Because if that's the case, you're always chasing after stuff. In order to starve the debt monster, you have to then be willing to make tough choices and then keep it as a habit. Paul, when he was teaching financial habits to the Corinthian church, he said this to them in 1 Corinthians 16. When you collect money from God's people, I want you to do exactly what I told the churches in Galatia to do. That is, each Sunday, each of you must put aside part of what you've earned. If you do this, you won't have to take up a collection when I come. Nowhere in the verse do you see the word tithing. What we do see is a principle of tithing, proportional giving. I want you to put aside a part of what you earned. That means every time you get paid, put it aside, a part. And when you do that, you're constantly fighting and starving the debt monster. You're saying, debt monster, I'm not going to accumulate stuff and be someone that has all these things and I'm in debt and my future is restricted. My decisions are hindered. My actions are limited because of the debt that I've incurred. You don't want to do that. And if you have done that, there's hope to get free from that. There's something about when your soul is free to say, God, I can make the choices I need to make to take care of my family the way I can. And it's not about making more money per se. It's about doing what is the right thing to do with what I have. Let's assume you never make anything more than what you're currently making. Can you live not at your means, but beneath your means? I remember it was years ago, sitting across from the table with a couple that were going through major marital problems at loggerheads, and at the base of it was financial. So I asked this question, I said, how much do you make? Combined, they made about $400,000 to $500,000 a year. So you say, whoa, give me those problems. And so they made good money, but they were in debt. I asked the husband, who was the primary breadwinner, and I'm not minimizing the role and the value of the wife, but I asked him this question. I said, what is your weekly allowance? He said, what do you mean weekly allowance? I said, what is your money that you set aside? This is my play money. This is my money if I want to go to the diner and get something, if I want to pick up your little item at the mall. What's your play money? What's the amount of your play money? And then what's your wife's allowance? He said, well, I don't have any allowance. She doesn't have any allowance. I said, that's a problem. Both of you are making decisions independent of one another, many times big financial decisions, and these financial decisions that have no budget to them, you're incurring a whole lot of debt, and you don't realize that because sometimes we think that the gravy train is always going to be running. Let me tell you something. Sometimes the train is broken. Sometimes there is no gravy. Sometimes somebody stole the train. I mean, a lot of things happen. The gravy train's not always, rolling down the tracks. And my point was, I said, set a reasonable allowance for each of you. They looked at me like a deer caught in a headlight. Because their argument was, I'm a grown man. So I know. I'm a grown woman. I know. And all of your being grown, you're mismanaging your income, and it's affecting your family, and it's affecting your children, and you're not being good stewards of the resources that you've received. See, it's not about money. I remember speaking at this conference in the Dominican Republic several years ago. It was a medical missions conference. this group had about 40 different, they represent 40 different nations. They had about 100 different physicians in those nations. And they brought me in to teach them about leadership. After the session, they took me to their ophthalmological center, because they dealt with a lot with ophthalmology, and many of them were ophthalmologists. And so they said, this is what we do to treat the poor in terms of eye care. But years ago, we started this food program to help them. And we would give them a stipend, and we stopped doing that. I said, why? And she said, the reason why we stopped giving them money because the poor didn't know how to use the money to buy food. They didn't know what to buy. They bought wrong things. What we do now is that we give them the food. So I gave you two examples. Rich and poor don't know how to handle money. So it's not so much about how much money you make. It's about your willingness to say, I want to put certain boundaries in my life and anchor points that'll keep me in such a good place financially that I will starve the debt monster. I'm going to budget. I'm going to live not within my means, but below my means. If you make $80,000 a year, don't live at $80,000 a year. Live at $50,000 a year. This way you have more. You say, well, you don't understand. When somebody makes this kind of money, I got to dress a certain way. You don't understand. That's why you're in debt. You don't need to impress anybody. They don't even like you. And you don't even like them. You don't need to impress them. They may be in debt because they're trying to impress people. You don't need to follow suit. That was a great place to say amen. See, the idea is that we must see Jesus cares so deeply about us that not only do we starve the debt monster, we got to slay the debt monster. You got to kill this thing. You can't coddle it. You got to kill it. See, you don't play with the debt monster because the debt monster will grow and get over, just big and overwhelming. 1 Timothy 6:10, Paul was giving Timothy some practical tips. He says this, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people, craving money, have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. This is a verse a lot of people get wrong. They say money is the root of all evil. That's not what the Bible says. The love of money is. I've never seen a nasty $10 bill. I've never seen, a sexually deranged $100 bill. Money it doesn't have a moral position. It's amoral. It holds or represents the moral position of the person who holds it. Paul is saying, don't love money. Now, this is very interesting because many times we are not seeing certain things. If I want to grow in intimacy with Christ, I'm going to read my Bible, I'm going to pray, I'm going to worship, I'm going to live a life that's morally upright. I'm going to grow. If I want to grow in financial wisdom, I'm going to apply financial principles to my life, and oftentimes financial principles are not related to the other things. That's why you can meet someone and in their character, impeccable. Ask them about money, silence. Sometimes you can meet someone, money, management, impeccable. Ask them about character, silence. It's two separate things. But we got to be good at both. It's not one or the other. It's both. Paul tells Timothy, the love of money. That means if you make money your ruler, you'll always be the slave of it. A friend of mine is a dog trainer. This lady came to him and said, with her dog on a leash, standing there next to him, and she said, look, I'm sick of this dog. This dog is so unruly. I'm about to just give it away. Can you help me? And before she said, can you help me, the dog standing next to her took one of its front paws and put it right on her foot, just stepped right there on her foot. And she said, oh, he's so affectionate. And the dog trainer said, that's not what that means. She said, what does that mean? He said, when a dog puts its foot on you, it means that he's your owner. You're his dog. So The dog had his foot right on. When she heard that, she pulled her foot away so quickly. You may say, Pastor, why you told me about that? If you stand where I stand and see what I see some of you, your wallets and your purse going like this to you. It's ruling you. Money is ruling you. In order to slay the debt monster, it's about you then saying, what role will money play in my life? It will not define me. It will not be something that rules me. It will not be something that depicts my determination, final determination. Money is a tool that I will use. Money will serve me and not me serving money. Jesus put it this way. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Jesus says, I want you to choose who you're going to serve. You may say to Jesus, what are my options? Money or God? Say it again, Jesus. Money or God? In order for you to slay the debt monster, you're going to have to say, I'm going to have God be my master, and I'm his servant, not money to be my master, and I'm its servant. You got to slay it. And the scripture is telling us that Jesus is intimately involved with the financial management aspects of our lives if we allow him access. And to give Jesus access to that part of your life, you got to give him access to all of your life. And if you've never invited Jesus into your life to be your Savior, then you can't pick and choose what he provides leadership to. If he's not Lord of all, he can't be Lord at all. And if you've never made him Lord of all, at the end of my talk, I'm going to give you an opportunity to surrender yourself to Jesus. So then not only will he be Lord of all, he'll also be Lord of your resources. I love what Charles Spurgeon, this old English preacher, said. It is very difficult for a man to have much money running through his hands without some of it sticking. It is very sticky stuff. And when it once sticks to the hands, they're not clean in the sight of the Lord. Unless a man is able to use money without abusing it, accepting it as a talent lent to him, and not as treasure given to him, it will very soon happen that the more money he has, the more troubles he will have. I want you to make the decision today that money is going to be ruled by you. And if God can trust you with money, he'll entrust to you something even more valuable: influence with people. People are God's highest possession. And if you handle money well, next step, God will give you influence with people. Everywhere, they'll be looking to you for input and advice and counsel and guidance. Why? Because they've observed how you handle money. And when you do that, promotion comes to the Lord. He gives you influence with people. I pray that God gives you lots of money, but it serves you and not you serve it. In fact, let me pray with you right now. Let's bow our hearts together.
Thank you for joining us for Christ Church Online. This concludes this week's broadcast. Make a connection with us by subscribing to us on YouTube and on social media at Christ Church USA. Or check us out on our website, christchurchusa.org. Be sure to join us next week, and we'll see you soon.